Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the United States serving Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Patricia Butenis.
They would put less jazzier music on for me. I don't want to raise your expectations, but anyway. Thank you very much for inviting me today, and I'd like to begin by thanking Dinesh Madu and all of the employees of hSenid for putting together this important conference. The theme of maximizing human resources is very timely, both for your companies to reach your goals and for Sri Lanka to reach its great potential. As ambassador, I face many of the same challenges you do in recognizing talent, building a cohesive and united team, and motivating people to work toward common goals. Beyond our own teams, I also believe that human resource management is critical for any group, even a country, to develop to its potential. So I'll begin by talking about the U.S. Embassy in Colombo, the challenges in leading an embassy, and my strategy for building a strong team with common goals. Then I'll say a few words about how the U.S. State Department faces the challenges it has as an organization, and how the State Department has evolved over the years to become a more inclusive organization. And beyond that, I'll comment just briefly on the United States and how we strive to be a multi-ethnic, open society where people can rise based on their own merits and their hard work. Finally, I will touch on the unique opportunities Sri Lanka has to build an inclusive country that provides prosperity and economic opportunity for all her citizens. Sri Lanka can succeed and reach its potential, especially if it draws on the talents of all her people. But let's get back to the embassy. It's not easy to build a strong and effective embassy team. I've been fortunate to be responsible for building teams in a number of countries, including Iraq, a country in civil conflict, and now Sri Lanka in a post-conflict environment. The first challenge for an ambassador is that most of your staff is in place when you arrive in a country, and they generally have more experience in country than you do. And sometimes they're not shy about telling you that. Never mind. A second challenge is that the embassy team comes from a variety of different backgrounds, with differing perspectives, work styles, and even goals. In my embassy here in Colombo, for example, many of our employees are not from the Department of State, but instead are from the U.S. Agency for International Development, branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, and the International Broadcasting Bureau. Although coordination of my diverse team is time-consuming, it is absolutely essential to develop common goals and coordinated efforts. The third challenge is integrating the American and Sri Lankan staff. We have a talented group of Sri Lankan employees, and their experience is absolutely critical to our success as a mission. No matter how hard the Americans work, we will not know the country as well as our Sri Lankan staff. Our less experienced American officers can learn a lot working with local employees who have a wealth of experience. Sometimes our less experienced employees want to work on their own, and we have to remind them of the value of taking a team approach. As you can see, as an ambassador, I have some real management challenges. What can I do? Of course, it depends on the situation and the people, but I have some general rules that I like to follow. I always give clear work expectations. I want my employees to know what they're supposed to do and when projects must be completed. I build a team by giving everyone opportunities and treating them fairly. It's very tempting to play favorites because you like a person or you know them from before, or you find some issues more interesting than others. I work to make sure that everybody has a chance and everyone feels that they are a part of the team. I think that transparency is the key to each of the first two goals. I try to be transparent and clear in my expectations and in providing opportunities to excel. In addition to transparency, I also practice accountability. Of course, people make mistakes, and I work with them on them. Transparency and fairness do not mean low expectations. They simply mean that everyone knows the standard for which they will be held accountable. One of my little mottos to people is, I always try to share the credit and try to take the blame. Another key is inclusiveness. As I mentioned, there are many different types of people on my team, including both Americans and Sri Lankans. I truly believe that we are a stronger team by incorporating everyone's abilities and perspectives so that they all become one team pushing forward to common goals. My final theme is difficult because it's contradictory. It is empowering people to pursue their own ideas while maintaining a coordinated embassy strategy. I want people to come up with great ideas and push the ideas up to their supervisors. You're not making full use of a talented staff if they just implement your ideas. If someone has a brilliant idea, I don't want to get lost in the bureaucracy. At the same time, there's a delicate balance since I'm responsible for all embassy operations. I make sure that all sections of the embassy are talking to each other and coordinating all these great ideas. Now I'd like to move on to another topic, that of organizational change. I've been a diplomat with the Department of State for over 30 years, and I've seen huge changes over time, as I'm sure all of us have. When I entered the State Department in 1980, it was still seen as a club dominated by white men. The State Department was, and remains to this day, a hierarchical and traditional organization, but it has greatly evolved over time. Some department diplomats must be very flexible since we cover the entire world and the world changes. 30 years ago, we were studying the Soviet Union, and few expected China's rise as a world economic power. But we need to recruit people who can be adaptable to tomorrow's challenges that we can't even foresee today. The State Department has put great emphasis on hiring women and minorities. When I started, there were few women in management positions, but the number is growing. Here in Colombo, my deputy is also a female career diplomat, as was our previous USAID mission director. The number of women in our introductory diplomat training courses has consistently increased over the years. We have also changed our hiring to focus on attracting minorities to the diplomatic service, and I think we've made some real progress there as well. Now, the State Department is now facing a different kind of challenge, dealing with Generation X. Our new recruits are very talented, but many are not used to hierarchy, and they simply don't get it why their boss needs to know about and approve what they're doing. Many new officers expect to have several different careers, not just one. They expect to work for the State Department for several years and move on to something else. When I joined, most people joined the State Department as a career and expected to spend 20 to 30, 35 years working for that one organization. That's different now. And this is a different challenge than reorienting Soviet experts to new development challenges, but in both cases, it requires flexibility, inclusiveness, transparency, and talking to your employees so that they know the direction you're heading and why. Now I'd like to make a few points about how the United States strives to be an open society. The U.S. is a multi-ethnic society with about 65% Caucasian people, 15% Hispanic, 13% African American, and 4% Asian. We are not perfect, but our goal is an open and transparent society where people can rise based on their own merits and their own hard work. Sometimes there are conflicts and disagreements, but as a multi-ethnic society, we make it work because we have common goals, we're committed to working together, and we strive for equal opportunities for all our citizens. The American model still works, and worldwide millions of people still seek to immigrate to the United States. Indeed, our changing American society is one of the reasons for the changes in the State Department itself, as we seek to better reflect our country. Once again, openness, transparency, and acceptance are keys to our success. I've talked a bit about the U.S., but now I'd like to discuss Sri Lanka's historic opportunity to move forward and realize her true potential. We all know that Sri Lanka has a once-in-a-lifetime chance to transform itself through economic growth and to build an inclusive society. We also know that the government of Sri Lanka is moving ahead with many new infrastructure projects to build the foundation of a new stage of economic development. Infrastructure development, of course, is absolutely necessary, but it won't be enough. Sri Lanka also must develop and fully utilize its human capital to reach its goals. There's no question in my mind that Sri Lanka can succeed in its ambitious goals. The keys are the same ones we've already discussed: equal opportunity, transparency, and inclusiveness. Sri Lanka has citizens from different backgrounds with different perspectives, and I think that this will greatly benefit Sri Lanka as it builds its new economy. I know that Sri Lanka will find a homegrown solution based on the country's unique history. Nevertheless, I think that the same keys to building a team, providing equal opportunities and open communication, will still be the key for building a new Sri Lanka. Each Sri Lankan must feel that he or she has the opportunity to excel and has a personal stake in the new Sri Lanka. One more point. Sri Lanka has a wealth of talented people, but in the past, due to the long conflict, many Sri Lankans took their talents overseas. Many were very successful overseas, and we in the U.S. have certainly enjoyed their contribution. Now that things are better, some Sri Lankans are coming home. I know that the government has met with some diaspora groups to encourage them to come back. I applaud these efforts, and I'm glad that the government is working to encourage their help in rebuilding the country. The return of Sri Lankans from abroad would be a tremendous asset for this country. Finally, let me tell you why I have confidence that Sri Lanka can mobilize its human capital to successfully compete globally. The reason is that you have done it before. Most people thought that Sri Lanka's garment industry would fade with the end of global quotas in 2005. In fact, the industry has thrived by developing world-class merchandise and creating more value added to its products. There were also skeptics about Sri Lanka's ability to develop information technology companies and to build a business process outsourcing industry, but you've done it, and these industries continue to grow. The government has started prioritizing human capital, emphasizing the development of English and information technology skills, and they have announced plans to improve the university system. These skills will help Sri Lanka to become a knowledge hub, and good for them. The keys of transparency and inclusiveness will remain central to Sri Lanka's work to develop its human capital and achieve its goals. I'm again delighted to have had this opportunity to join you this morning, and thank you once again to hSenid, and please enjoy your conference.